Then 3 boys fishing in the same area went looking for worms in a small grove of bushes. Bill Chetter was only 5, but he clearly remembers what he saw that day.
We stumbled across something sticking out of the ground that didn't look normal. We poked at it a bit with a stick. We thought it might have been a body.
They told an uncle who didn't believe them. It would be nearly another week before they persuaded some older cousins to visit the scene.
We decided to take the 3 girls and show them what we thought, see what, they thought of it, eh? Well, they kind of freaked out, got scared of it, and went yelling to Uncle Andy.
She'd been missing for 13 days. Police made inquiries as far away as Quebec. They finally found her 800 yards from home, buried in a shallow grave. She'd been raped, her head battered with a 12-pound block of concrete, and buried alive. She was 23 years old. For the tight-knit Vicharuk family, the loss of the youngest was an incomprehensible tragedy. Her sister Marie Moss remembers.
Oh God, I just froze. Oh God, we just screamed, cried, yelled. Then they had to tell Mom and Dad. My dad just froze. My mother, she didn't speak. That night, she passed out on the floor. That was awful. It was just terrible.
When her older sister, Pearl Chernesky, broke the news to her family, it would register indelibly in the memories of Pearl's children.
It was such a rough period in our household because the household went quiet. It was a very sad feeling.
You just knew something bad had happened?
Absolutely, we did. And then when the call came, and they had said to my mom, Pearl, we want you to sit down, and she said, oh, you found her. Oh, she was quite excited. You finally found her. So Mom sat down and they told her, and that was it. Everything had gone crazy in our house. Mom cried and cried, and it was like I had to take over. Mom just couldn't get it together.
Something about a murder rouses public sentiment like no other crime. The murder of this young woman stunned even the police department.
The chief of police, James Kettles, was quite upset with this because he prided himself in running a tight ship and a good city. He said that night that this was the most heinous crime he had ever seen in his career.
All murders are brutal, but there was a particular savagery in this one. The killer must have been a maniac. There was evidence of a ferocious struggle before she died. She probably left marks on him. He shouldn't have been hard to find. But a crucial 13 days had passed, and this was a construction site. The murder scene was hopelessly compromised. Saskatoon would never quite see itself the same way after May of 1962. Until then, ordinary people just assumed their streets were as safe as their homes.
I don't think there was the ever-present thought of danger, having to look behind your back sort of thing. There wasn't that much crime like there is now.
For retired policeman Roman Keltoff, who has died since this interview, even a mysterious disappearance wouldn't have meant much at first.
It just wasn't unusual to go by yourself, even after dark. It wouldn't have raised that much concern.
Sharon Butala is renowned for 17 books of fiction and non-fiction, almost all meditations on prairie life, where in the 60s, violent crime was rare.
It was very unusual at that time, especially a young, pretty woman, a nurse. I mean, she wasn't a prostitute on the west side. She was a young woman, you know, entitled to respect and leading a decent life. So it was very unusual.
As the grim details of the crime filtered into the community consciousness, an awful truth was born. If it could happen to her, it could happen to anybody. It was a warning that resonates to this day, 46 years later.